from the Epistle of the Colossians to the Colossians. So if you have been raised with Christ, so if you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth, for you have died. You have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, is revealed, then you also will be revealed with him in glory. Put to death, therefore, whatever in you is earthly, that is fornication, impurity, passion, evil desire, and greed, which is idolatry. On account of these, the wrath of God is coming on those who are disobedient. These are the ways you also once lived when you were living that life, but now you must get rid of all such things: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and abusive language from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, seeing that you have stripped off the old self with its practices and have clothed yourself with the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge according to the image of its Creator. In that renewal, there is no longer Greek and Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave and free, but Christ is all and in all. As God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, with kindness, with humility, meekness, and with patience. Bear with one another. And if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other. Just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. So Emily was reading another book the other day. She started another book, and after a few minutes, she put it down and goes, another dystopian teenage fantasy. I don't even know what that means, but librarians know what it means. But it means it's the same old story with a different cover. Same old story, different cover. Is that the way life works? It's the same old story, just different characters, different times, different names, maybe different places. Haven't we done this before? It's been a long week. Brussels, same old story. Haven't we been here before? Not to mention all the terrorist attacks that have occurred in other places of the world, which we are much less concerned about. Iraq just had one. And then we have kind of the same old responses to these same old stories. We have to be quicker, stronger, mightier, meaner, harder, fiercer. Have you heard of more suspicious, more distrustful, more fear, more fear. That's what I hear, more fear. We have to act out of more fear. I hear the same old story. Doesn't it ever change? Are we doomed to repeat it again and again and again? This is a good question. Does it ever change? Because the faithful have always hoped for something better. Sometimes that hope looks back, and sometimes that hope looks to the future, but they have always hoped for something different, something better. The Garden of Eden is a hope for something different. This is the way it used to be. Even the flood, with all of that horrible implications, was about, isn't it going to be better? A new creation. Abram and Sarai were called out of Ur to go to a land flowing with milk and honey, and you're going to have so many descendants, and it's going to be populated, and the Lord will be God. It's going to be better. And then the Israelites were fed. They were empowered for 40 years in the wilderness with a vision of the promised land. It's going to be better. It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. And after they've been sent into exile in Babylon, don't worry, Isaiah says, it's going to be better. It's going to be better. There's always a better land. There's always a better time. There's always a better place. And you know what? Maybe for short increments there are, but does it ever last? It never lasts. It never lasts. Something always happens. Either inward sin or outward sin creeps through the door in which it is always lying wait. The garden The garden was lost because of disobedience, maybe. The flood, it wasn't but land was barely dry and there was a broken family and a curse. Abraham and Sarah's land, once flowing with milk and honey, was succumbed again and again to famine. The promised land, idolatry, exile, geopolitical nationalism, war, oppression, and tyranny. Everything stays the same. It never changes. We hope not with Jesus, though. We hope not with Jesus. Jesus is here. He has come to the door of Jerusalem. He has come through the door of the temple. He has proclaimed himself Messiah clearly and without reservation. He has cleansed the temple. He has called it his Father's house. The confrontation between good and evil is finally here. The long-awaited Messiah, when everything is going to be different. The stump that has grown out, the shoot that has grown out of the stump of Jesse, the promised kingdom of David, the way it used to be but even better, is finally here. The disciples, they were ready. It was time for a change. There was nothing that was going to stop this moment. And Jesus had told them to follow him, right? Follow me. How do you get people to follow you? You have to make them believe in something. You have to inspire them. You have to feed them a vision. Give them a great dream. What would have happened if Jesus had called together his disciples? Imagine the scene. Jesus calls together his disciples. Come on, guys, and come on, gals. Come on, huddle in, huddle in. And he's looking around, making sure no one's listening. Come on, come on. He goes, okay. This is the way this is going to come down. When it's all said and done, nothing's going to change. It's not going to be any different. The sin's still going to be around. Idolatry's still going to be around. Evil's still going to be around. Oppression's still going to be around. Tyranny's still going to be around. Greed is still going to be around. Malice and hatred, they're all going to be here. Are you ready? Put your hands in. Let's follow me. Can you imagine what Peter's going to say? You're such a downer, Jesus. Put your hands in. Let's follow me. You can't do that. You have to tell people it's going to be different. I went through presidential slogans in order to think about how we inspire people to be different. Let's see how good you are. Almost every single presidential slogan that we have on record, at least that I could find, fits in the category, or it's going to be better, or there's a clear enemy, or I'm your man. Or if the official slogan for Hillary is Hillary 2016, I'm your woman. All right? It's either it's going to be better, there's a clear enemy, or I'm in. 54-40 or fight. Come on, who is that? This is probably the only presidential slogan quiz you'll ever hear on Easter Sunday. I'm looking at some of you who are historians. 54-40 or fight. James K. Polk. 1880? something like that? Come on, some of you were almost alive back then. No, not you, Betty. You're beautiful. I'll skip through. Patriotism, protection, and prosperity. That's a good one. We could preach that. Patriotism, protection, and prosperity. McKinley, thank you for get back in the line, but thank you for trying. You fail. I know. McKinley, 1896. The full dinner pal. I mean, really? Full dinner pal. Come on, I'm looking at my historian teacher. I don't have it down. It's somewhere between McKinley and Eisenhower. Who was that? 1890. 1890? Michelle Bowen? Hoover. Baby, Hoover. Was he president? Hoover. Wasn't there a dam named after that guy? All right, here's a good one. No, it's not Hoover. Because this is Hoover. Chicken in every pot, a car in every garage. No, it was... What country are you living in? Hoover. Make us proud again. I mean, every single slogan is about, it's better then, it's going to be better now. Ford. A leader for change. Carter, not kidding. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I mean, they said that's the official slogan of Ronald Reagan. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? All right, I think that must have been his second slogan, is what I'm guessing. But maybe it was the first. First one? Carter just gets dumped on, doesn't he? I like this one. Kindler, gentler nation. Bush, yeah. Bush, isn't that beautiful? All right, and then more future. Change we believe in. Obama. Heal, inspire, revive. Carson. It's a nice one. New possibilities, new leadership. Everything's about it's going to be better. Fiorini. Thank you. You didn't even know what I was saying. You didn't even know what I was saying. Who is that? I definitely can't spell it. Reigniting the promise. Cruz. All right, here. Political revolution is coming. Bernie Sanders. He even just labels it. It's revolution. New American century. Rubio. And make America great again. It's the perfect one to end that segment. Trump. Make America great again. I mean, you couldn't win a presidential candidacy if your slogan was just more of the same, right? But isn't that just more? I mean, come on. Do we really believe this stuff? Haven't we been here before? We don't have to go through biblical history to see that all of the pie in the sky, it's going to be better. There's going to be more prosperity, more security, and we're going to be tougher or more compassionate. We're going to be bigger and more secure. I mean, whatever it is. Has it ever actually happened? Just more of the same. Every single one of these promises relies somewhat on force. Not necessarily bad force. Legal force, capitalistic, business force, military force. It could be the force of walls, either physical ones or trade walls. Everything relies somehow on force. But Jesus came into Jerusalem and he didn't use force. In fact, the force was applied to him, and it appeared like he failed. It appeared like once again the hopes and the visions and the promises came to a dashing, crashing, smashing, bloody end when he was crucified on the cross. The final confrontation hadn't just fizzled out, it had been crushed. Can you imagine the disciples? Let's just go home. Let's just go home. It's never going to change. It's all the same. But 3 days later, something did change. Something was different. But what? What had changed? Had Jesus pulled them together and told them nothing was going to change, they would have discovered that it had largely been true. There was still sin and lots of it. In fact, we continue to invent ways that sin can enter into this world and hold sway. But it had changed. He had changed. He had changed, and with him, they had as well. It's undeniable that they had changed. There would be no Christianity, no Christian church, no Christian spirituality, no proclamation of Easter morning had they not changed. Had something so incredible happened in their lives. Where before they had run away, now they proclaimed the way. They had changed. Paul tries to explain it here in this letter to the Colossian church. He tries to explain about what crazy words he uses, what mystical words, words that point to a whole different way of thinking, a whole different way of being. He says you have died. Really? I didn't know that. Did you know you died? You were buried. Really? Could this be true? And you have been raised. This isn't normal way of talking. This is complete and utter transformation. You are with him. The life that you live today, he is saying, is totally different than the life you lived yesterday before the resurrection. You cannot compare the two. It's as if you died and reborn and raised. And yeah, the world is the same. There's still brokenness and sin and destruction and evil. But you are not the same. And if you haven't changed, because the world didn't change, He doesn't use force to change the world. When the disciples came to Him and said, hey, we want to sit at your right hand, left hand, Jesus says, no, we don't play that kind of game. We don't lord it over people. We serve people. Our favorite story, the story of the prodigal son or the prodigal father or the prodigal. The father didn't run out and find the younger son and drag him back home and say, you are going to shape up, or so help me God, you'll never live enough. There's no force. When the elder son wouldn't come in to celebrate the party, the father went out and implored him and pleaded and begged, but he didn't drag him by the ear into the house and said, you're going to smile, so help me God. There is no force against sin. There is no force to change. The greatest theological movie ever made, Bruce Almighty stands in front of his girlfriend and says, love me! It's a great movie. And he goes to Morgan Freeman, who plays God so well. And he says, how do you get people to love you? You figure that one out, son, and you let me know. You can't force the vision. You can't force the promise. You can't force the kingdom. You have to invite them. Jesus says you are salt, but if salt has lost its saltiness, what good is it for? But even more, you are lights. You are lights, and you are not meant to be hidden under a bushel basket, but placed up on a hill so that people will see it, and they'll be warned by it, and they'll be invited through it, and they'll come to it. They'll be drawn to it. You are to be a light. We aren't waiting for the perfect place to come. I know some people are. You've seen the signs. Are you ready? Jesus is coming back. All that might be fine and true, but we aren't ready. We aren't waiting for that. They asked Jesus, so where is this kingdom of heaven, Jesus? And he says, some people will point to it and they'll say it's over there, or it's over here. He says, beware of all those things, because the kingdom of heaven is with you in your midst. Referring to himself, but also to the reality of God. We aren't waiting for the perfect place, the perfect utopia to be manifest. There is no human ability to make it so. The truth of our crazy little book, and our crazy little letter, the crazy little book that we believe in, Revelation, is that no human or no group of humans can make it happen. Only God can. But God has done that, and we are citizens of that kingdom because we have died and we have been raised, and our heart is to be on the things above with Jesus. And therefore, we are not to be ruled by sin. We are not to be ruled by anger and malice and greed and death and fear and hatred. Oh, the hatred. Christians are not to be hateful people. We are not to be fearful people. Because in that place, of which we are citizens, and in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, we are ambassadors for Christ. We are living here as citizens of that place. To share what it's like to belong there. So Jesus tells the disciples to go home. Don't go in search of Shangri-La or Atlantis or even heaven. Go home. Tell the disciples to go home and I will meet them there. This is the message he gives to the Marys. Tell my brothers to go home to Galilee and I will meet them there. Home hasn't changed. There's still the daily grind and the fish to clean and the crops to sow and the kids to raise and the spouses to deal with and the illnesses and the sicknesses and the death and the sin and the destruction and the oppression and the forces. But I will be there with you. And you will be with me. And you have changed. You are citizens of my kingdom. And my kingdom is not of this world and of this place. If it was, he says to Pilate, they'd be here trying to save me and protect me, leading a political revolution. No. We are citizens of another place. And we don't live that citizenship in order even to change the world. That's not why we do it. We're not kind and compassionate. We don't feed people and start hospitals and do mission work and heal the sick. We don't do all that to change the world. We do it all because that's the way it is in our home. And we're going to live that way here as lights, as ambassadors, as bringers of truth, of an open doors, inviting people into a new and more beautiful way of life. And it changes the world. So be citizens. Don't be afraid to be dead and be raised. Don't be afraid to be buried and be raised. Don't be afraid to believe in the incredible dream of the resurrection. Listen this morning for a word from God to you.